All right, guys and girls, joining us this week on the AlwaysMoto Podcast. He's been out of action for a few weeks now. Unfortunately, a crash back at Daytona has seen him out of action. It's the number 115. He's riding for Rocky Mountain Ride Unlimited. It's Jonah Geistler. How are we doing, Jonah?
Good, all good.
How's everything going? You had a bit of a nasty crash there at Daytona. How's everything feeling? Is everything back in sort of one position for you now?
Yeah, everything starting to feel better. Obviously, I had a head injury, so we definitely took some time off that was much needed. But yeah, everything's starting to feel a lot better now.
Now, do you actually remember the crash at all from Daytona there, or because of the head injury, sometimes obviously these things get blurred out or forgotten? Is that clear for you what happened or not?
Yeah, I remember basically all the way up until I hit the ground. And yeah, so I just after the finish line there, yeah, I think it was a triple section, and in the second one, I kind of drug my pegs in the transition,
Yeah.
and it sent me up over the bars. And then I when I endoed, I landed into the fourth one, and so I think that's what got me good.
Yeah, look, it happens pretty quick on a supercross track. One little mistake, especially like the peg drag too, like that can just rip the bike out from under you, and yeah, that's the end of it, isn't it?
Yeah, yep. Oh yeah, it happens real quick.
So how is the recovery? Like we're talking, Daytona was about 7 or so weeks ago now. We had a couple of like you mentioned, you had the brain injury, brain bleed. You also in your post you had the T1, the T4 vertebrae fractures. You had a rib fracture in there. How's all that stuff going? How's the recovery in general?
It's going pretty good. I definitely say that the head was the worst of it. Um, it took probably about 2 weeks till I was fully clear again. But I spent a lot of time on the couch, just making sure I wasn't on my phone too much, and trying to definitely pay attention to healing my brain up, and doing everything that they asked. And so that was definitely the hardest part. But my back and my ribs were obviously sore as well, for about the same amount of time, 2 or 3 weeks. And but everything's feeling good now. And so I had an injury back in 2021, and I actually ended up breaking my tib fib. So the plan this year was right before outdoors. We're actually going to take some time off and get some of that hardware out of my leg.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, and so we actually got to do that a little sooner than we had hoped originally, just with my Daytona injury.
Yep.
So on Friday this last week, I ended up going in and getting a few screws taken out of my leg because they were bothering me quite a bit, from that previous crash. So yeah, overall, I was doing great. I didn't really have any symptoms as far as my head or my back or my ribs since Daytona. And then obviously now I'm kind of laying low again on the couch after taking my screws out of my leg. So but no, overall, feeling good, and it's already a big relief with those screws out of my leg. I already feel a difference. So overall, we should be pretty good to roll here soon.
Well, that I find that like these interviews, when we do these check-ins, they're always interesting because there's something that comes up that you weren't expecting, and that obviously is the exact that moment for us with the leg side of things for you. But that's perfect timing, right? Like you've used the recovery period to your advantage to correct a few other things. And I always say about the hardware side of things, like myself as a physio, I've had injuries, I've had some hardware removed. It's great to do it because you feel better for it. But you guys in the pro scene, you never have the time to dedicate that, extra recovery from that procedure to have them out. And then it's sort of usually that 6 weeks that they say that you should be off it while the bone fills back into that hole that, the screws come out of. You guys don't have that time to do it, but you've used this other injury to your advantage. That's an awesome job, man.
Yeah, thank you. And honestly, like you said, it's you just never really get the time. And so this year, we were actually going to sacrifice about half of the outdoor season, to get that done, and if not more. And so it does kind of stink because ever since 2021, when I had this leg injury, I've definitely missed a lot of racing. And shoot, with that injury, I was off about 8 months. So, just a lot of racing was the experience of racing was lost. And it's hard to gain that. You could do as many practice laps as you want and try to get in the best shape. But at the end of the day, it's all about the experience being out there. And so, I had raced, the East, or I think it was East Coast in 2021 in the beginning there. And then I ended up getting hurt right after my full preseason for 2022. So, a lot of riding kind of gone to waste, but yeah, so no, definitely. We definitely took this time as a good opportunity to get that hardware out, because it's something that's pretty much been bothering me since I had it done. And so so unfortunately, I didn't get to race as much as I wanted to. And, I was hoping to only take a few outdoor races off, but, at the end of the day, it is what it is. And I'm glad that we could kind of kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, make the most of the time, definitely, which is, you've done a really nice job there. So if it wasn't for this leg, removal of the hardware side of things, would you be pretty much ready to go from the Daytona crash now?
Yeah. Yep. So they actually told me, at the hospital and even with my checkups, that they definitely wanted me to take two months off before I did thing that risked me hitting my head, in a similar fashion as before. So I would be about almost that 2 month mark. So I would definitely be getting back down to it and riding again.
Yeah, sure. And so then what have they said to you for this hardware removal? Have they said that sort of 6 weeks time frame, you've got to be off it from a physical activity point of view, from obviously from a sport point of view, but you can probably train and cycle and stuff in the meantime? Or what have they said to you for recovery for this?
Yeah. Yep. So they said about a month, a little more, a little less. It just kind of depends on how I'm feeling.
Yep.
But they said about a month, and they actually told me that I could get back in the gym, just, doing some light stuff at a week out of surgery. So I'm hoping to, within the next couple of days, kind of start doing that.
Yeah, it's everyone's slightly different. Like surgeons are all a little bit particular about what their post-op looks like for different reasons and for different injuries, obviously. But yeah, there is that chance that you can start doing a lot of stuff in the gym early, as long as it's not, you're not jumping and landing on it. So you're not getting that impact of like a, plyometric exercise, or it's all just sort of, cabled machines, where you're pushing against something. There's no impact on it. That sort of stuff is generally fine. So yeah, you should be able to get fairly active here fairly soon, which would be probably a nice feeling for you.
Yeah. Especially after, obviously it's been since Daytona. So almost, at the 2 month mark of kind of laying low and doing stuff at home, but, nothing crazy. And, first couple of weeks, it was trying to keep the heart rate low because of my head. And so we're just, we've just kind of been laying low and, hopefully within the next week or two, we can start ramping it back up and get ready to be back on the bike.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what was the hardest part for the Daytona crash? What was the hardest part of the injury recovery for that? Was it the head, or was the other fractures more of a problem for you?
Honestly, it was probably the head. I've gotten, knocked out and had a concussion, maybe two at most, previously.
Mm-hmm.
And, they've all been, I feel fine the next day or 2 days later. I'm feeling back to pretty much normal. And so it was a weird deal, because it took about, maybe 10 or 12 days, maybe a little more, to feel like fully normal again. And so that was definitely the hardest part, just trying to get back to 100%, and kind of the question of, oh shoot, am I gonna feel normal again? Because after about a week, I was getting nervous, but no, luckily everything settled down and cleared back out. Yeah.
No, that's good. I'm glad that's all sorted out, because head injuries are a little bit little bit difficult sometimes, and it's obviously the harder you hit, the more recovery time's required, and yeah, look, lots of people can be out for quite some time. But if you've cleared up, that's the main thing. You don't want any residual headaches or blurred visions, or just even memory becoming a bit patchy. That's always a bit of a drama for everybody to just keep an eye on. But if you're all clear up on that, that's fantastic. It's good to hear.
Yeah. No, it was like I said, it was definitely weird, and we've always been big on taking the right amount of time off for injuries, is as long as it's reasonable. but head injuries for sure, we like to take exactly the amount of time off that they say, just because it's dangerous and it can hurt you in later life. So.
That's good policy to have, mate. So keep that one going. Hopefully you don't have any more head injuries, but if anything does like that, keep that policy, because it's a good one to have. Now, with all this time off and obviously the extra stuff going on for you with the leg, have you got something as a race or anything like that you're eyeing as a return point for you at this stage, or is it too early to say?
With the leg deal now, it's a little early to say. And honestly, like, we were still kind of up in the air on, when I was going to come back, even if I had this surgery right after Supercross ended. So, like you said, it's about a month or 6 weeks and until I can really get back on the bike.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to say it would be shortly after that, maybe get a couple weeks of training in and be racing shortly after that. But with even with 2 months off the bike is, as short as that seems, it's pretty long time to be back or to be off the bike. So to get back on and get back in shape, it might take a little longer than expected. So hopefully, I'd like to race a few outdoors, whether that be, do at the end or something like that. But, or either that, or just maybe start with some local racing and start there and kind of see how I'm feeling.
Yeah, fair enough. The fitness side of things is a big factor in all this. As much as you release the ride, yeah, you can ride 1 lap or you can ride 20 laps, and there's a big difference in the ability to complete that. So, yeah, you have to wait and see, I guess. It is fairly early to ask that, but we always ask it just to see if you've got something. People like to have a bit of a goal to sort of work towards. So, and you guys, obviously being pro riders, usually have a list of that sort of stuff going that you're trying to work on. So, usually got something in mind.
Yep.
Now,
for sure.
Now, question to sort of finish off. We've been doing this with every rider recently that we're interviewing, just to sort of give everybody an understanding of maybe what's hiding under the top layer of gear for the pro riders. So, Jonah, what's under your gear? Are you wearing anything in particular? Are you a brace man? Are you knee pad man? Is there something different you've got hiding under there that we don't know about? What's under your gear, Jonah?
You know what? I am pretty standard when it comes to what's underneath. I usually just do a typical knee brace and a full chest protector front and back.
Yep.
But I've definitely been big on the chest protector. I've always worn it since I was on mini bikes, and it's been important to me just because I typically usually don't have any rib or anything happen with my upper torso, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's definitely good, in my opinion, to have that on. But I went back and forth a little bit from knee pads to knee braces when I first went pro.
Okay.
But now with that injury to my tib fib, it just feels more stable with the knee brace on. So I kind of just went back to the knee brace, and it feels a little better for me.
Yeah, that's an interesting reason as to why you've made that shift, and that makes complete sense because it would actually hold you together a lot better. Obviously, you can tighten that down onto the knee and onto that upper lower limb section there of your shin, and hold it all together, which would maybe make a big difference for you at that point. So that's an interesting one. Good to know.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Well, look, thank you for making some time on the AlwaysMoto podcast, and it's nice to check in with you guys with the injuries because you tend to disappear on us, and we're not sure what's happening. And it's nice for the fans out there to get an update and see that you're doing well, which is awesome in this case. And like we said, find out something interesting about yourself that you've taken the time to do some other work, get some removal work done. So, nice to have you on the podcast, Jonah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was a blast.
Awesome. All right, man. We'll look for you here shortly. Maybe in a couple of months on some outdoor races. But yeah, we'll try and keep in touch. Thanks, Jonah.
All right. Thank you.